You brought up potential, Caleb, and I want to finish it off with this. Why does that word make you so mad? Because you
Because
know me, I hate the word potential. I think potential is such a dumb. I don't like the word high ceiling. I don't like high floor. I don't like potential. I just think it's like you're in the NBA. Yeah, if you're 30 years old, if you're 28 years old, you don't have anywhere potential. Of course, you're not going to get. There's no higher ceiling. Of course, but why do you have such an issue with the word potential?
every single player in the league has the ability to add something more to their game. I understand people say, no, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I understand that argument, but listen, before a player turns 27, I think they can add almost anything to their game, limit like ability wise. Now, obviously, I can't expect a center like Andre Drummond to go out there and dribble the ball like Allen Iverson. There's obvious restraints to that. But do I think a guy like Andre Drummond could add a three ball to his game? Yes. There's no reason why he couldn't. It's modern NBA. Coaches are teaching shooting all around the world, right? He can add something like that. And I think for fans, they get in the way of their judgment of a player. Because, like, there's arguments to be had. You posted on the Dimers account about Tyrese being better than LaMelo. Right now, he is. There's not any argument that LaMelo is better than Tyrese Halliburton right at this very second. There's not one argument. And people are arguing with you. They said, well, LaMelo has more potential. Like, yeah, he does. He does. But guess what? Right now, this very second, stop letting it cloud your judgment and make you say that LaMelo is better than Tyrese right now, because he's not. If we're going right now, what they bring right now to the table, Tyrese is better. And people also say, well, Tyrese is really just a high floor, low ceiling type of player. But I get that argument, but it's like you don't know that, because, like I said with my thing, a player can add anything to their game, ability wise, right? What their limitations are. But like, you can't ask Tyrese Halliburton to add a sky hook to his game, because that's just not, you know what I mean? It's just not a thing. But like, in terms of like people say, well, he can't really become a better scorer. Why not? You get people add things to their game all the time, right? Like you see Jason Tatum 5 years down the road, he'll add a new move to his bag or something. You know what I mean? Like it's something like that, little stuff, but it'll add playmaking. The longer you're in the NBA, the more stuff you see. You know what I mean? The more stuff, the more you figure out how to work around teams blitzing you at half court. You work around that stuff, blitzing screens and everything. You figure stuff out. You're going to add stuff. It's trial and error in the NBA. You're going to add stuff. And that's why whenever people say, well, this is kind of just the player he is now, it's like, no, that's not. And plus, here's another reason I hate the word potential. It really messes with people whenever a player's in that year 5 range, like a Ben Simmons, right? People are now starting to go on Twitter and say that Ben Simmons is not that good. We know Ben Simmons is good. His defense is great. He can guard 1 through 5. His playmaking is good. But people now make the argument, well, he's kind of not good. Like he's kind of bad. And it's like, no, stop. Like because he didn't reach that unrealistic potential you made up in your head, you're now saying that a player sucks, and he does not suck. That's why I don't really like that. I like looking at each individual player, figuring out, hey, how's he doing? What's he doing good at and everything? And then kind of putting that together. Stop going with the word potential. Stop thinking, well, if he doesn't really reach the ceiling, he's not that good. Because that's unrealistic. And it really hurts people's value, because now there's no reason for people to say Ben Simmons stinks. And I'm sorry to go off on a rant, but the word potential to me has kind of ruined prospects. It's kind of made it not fun to really scout, because people say, well, here's player A, he averaged 20 and 10, but here's player B, he averaged 8 and 6. He has more potential. Like, yeah, sure he does, but will he add those skills to his game? What happens if he doesn't?
Here's the thing I want to disagree with you on is how can you say a player has more potential when it's like why? Because of the fact that they have more in their game in high school, because of the fact that they were drafted at a higher slot. It makes no sense to me, because it's like, yeah, saying a guy like Anthony Edwards, he has very high potential. Sure. But has he played anywhere near his potential? No. So what's there to expect for him to reach that potential? Now, even a guy like James Wiseman, right? We look at guys like they brought up a stat that rookies at 19 years old that are big man, um, James Wiseman is third right now in points and rebounds behind Kevin Garnett and Dwight Howard. Does that mean now that James Wiseman is going to be the next Kevin Garnett or the next Dwight Howard? No, and that's the problem is we put these guys on such a high pedestal that we expect them to be at that level
All
because
time greats. Yeah.
because look at another guy like Marvin Bagley, right? And people bring this up all the time. Well, Marvin Bagley hasn't played 82 games yet. Marvin Bagley hasn't played a full season. So we don't know his potential. He has all the potential in the world. Well, sure. But again, He hasn't played enough games to do that. So when you're not playing enough games, that kills your career too. That shortens your career. That hurts your long-term longevity. And that can easily be, hey, you might never reach your potential. A guy like Killian Hayes, he was a all potential guy. He's a project player, right? And people talk about project players. And project player to me is different from potential, right? Because when you draft a project player, they have a lot higher potential. Now, does that mean they're even going to reach it? No, because it's like, what? You think Killian Hayes is going to all of a sudden be better than LaMelo and Tyrese? It's just, to me, if you look at it this year, and we talked about this too, potential is great, right? But we look at all the other drafts. Do you remember De'Aaron Fox's draft? We saw Jason Tatum. We saw De'Aaron Fox. We saw Bam Adebayo. They all played extremely, extremely well their rookie year. Who performed poorly? Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson played good when? The last 20 games of the season when teams were tanking. And everybody saw that from a mile away. Markelle Fultz, he was struggling, but people said, "Oh, well, Markelle has more potential." Why? Because he went number one in the draft of De'Aaron Fox, Jason Tatum, and Bam Adebayo, and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell. People say, "Oh, he doesn't have as high potential because he's older." Donovan Mitchell's arguably one of the best players in this class, and Donovan Mitchell arguably has more quote potential than De'Aaron Fox. And that's to me is the frustrating part because it's like, oh well, De'Aaron, if De'Aaron Fox becomes a really good shooter, then his potential is through the roof, right? But it's like you're asking for a lot. Lonzo Ball, right? Another guy that got drafted off of potential because people thought, oh, he could be like a magic light. Well, he couldn't shoot in the NBA. Well, his playmaking didn't really work in the NBA. So he's not that player. He's not who we all thought he was. And then people get disappointed. So just get off the word potential, guys. Please, please, please.
Mhm.